Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to another Sunday of Chantel's Beauty Talk. As I always say, beauty is on the inside, beauty is on the outside, and always beauty is, of course, loving yourself. So today is all about beauty, guys. Literally, figuratively, everything. Shout outs to Shawn Brown, who will be today's guest. And he is an employee and a lab application manager of Gattefossè USA. So it's a major beauty hub that does construct a lot of the beauty products that go out into the beauty world. So I am so excited to bring him up very, very shortly. I hope everyone had a very blessed week last week, and I hope everyone is going to have an even better week going into this new one. So also, I do want to tell everybody, if you haven't followed Chantel's Beauty Talk, it's at Chantel's Beauty Talk, no apostrophe. Make sure you go ahead and you do push the follow button, because as soon as we get to fall, we are taking it from my own page to its own page to live on its own. So I can't wait for that. It's going to be so exciting. And, you know, you might see me pop up on my own live. Who knows, with a special guest who's going to be a host. But, Shawn, I do see you in here. I can't wait to interview you. And without further ado, I'm going to bring up our guest, Shawn. Also, shout outs to A5A. Maybe I'll go ahead and I will just... Hey, Shawn, can you send a request? For some reason, I can't see you, but we will bring him up very momentarily. So yes, all of my ladies, and this also includes my men, if you want to know what goes into certain products or who's behind some of the great things that you like, as far as lipsticks, as far as lotions, what's good for us ethnic people, as far as ingredients are concerned, Shawn is here to
Okay. So can't wait to talk to him and see what he's going to spill. Hello there.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me?
Very well. What's going on? Happy Sunday. My Mr.
Happy Sunday.
Lab
I had a bit of
manager.
We almost had an issue. There was a little bit of a house issue going on beforehand, so I was trying to scramble and get that situated before I signed on. But we're good. We're good here.
Okay, as long as you're good on the home front, we're all good. And we won't take too much time. I will allow some time for questions, but I feel like sometimes these beauty talks do go by a little. They fly by, especially when you're talking about beauty. What woman does it not like beauty, and or men who like men's cosmetics or men's stuff that includes like beard oil, beard lotion, beard wash? So that does include the men as well. Just FYI.
It's for everyone.
For everyone. All right. So Shawn, shout outs to you, A5A.
Yes, of course. All day.
Shout out to y'all, okay?
Out of row, Alfalfa Land all day. Yes.
TK Les IRO.
Yes.
You're an application lab manager, and I know people are wondering, like, what is that? Somewhat. But do you mind sharing a little bit of who you are and a little bit of what you do, just top line?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Shawn Brown. So I currently work for a company, Gattefossè. We are a French-based company, but I work in the U.S. subsidiary in Paramus, New Jersey. The company as a whole, we're celebrating 140 years of being in existence, still a family-owned company. And the parent, the Gattefossè family has owned it for the entirety of its 140 years.
Wow.
And, you know, the founders of the company actually were considered to be the ones that were founders of the whole thing of aromatherapy, and that's carried over within the existence of the company. But I've worked in the cosmetic industry for 14 years now, essentially since I got out of college at Seton Hall, and fell into a job with Avon Products in Suffolk, New York, and that's where I discovered the industry and got really interested in the industry. And it's, you know, I've stayed with it since. I've worked for, you know, 3 other companies, including Gattefossè since that, and it's
Okay.
it's been good, really good, really good experience. And then for application labs, so I work on what's considered the supplier side of the industry. So there's so many different parts, and I think the average consumer really only knows the finished products. They know L'Oreal's, Estee Lauder's, and
Yes.
Johnson & Johnson's, but there are companies that are supporting them in different capacities. So we, being the suppliers, we are one of the companies that are selling the raw materials to these companies. So if
Wow.
and I think the consumers are more educated now, but
Yeah.
you look on the back of the product and you read the things and the ingredient list. My company is one of those companies that is creating those raw materials to sell to whether it is a mom and pop or these large multinational companies to use in their formulations.
So we've had this conversation prior, and how I feel about it doesn't change. I think that is such a cool job to be able
Thank
to
you.
be like the forefront behind all of these other major companies, especially the starting point. So I know you mentioned that you're the base, right? You're the foundation of what starts something before it even completely fully blooms and emerges. So do you want to talk a little bit about that too?
Yeah, I mean, so we're not the only ones, right? There's so many different
Yeah.
parts of the industry. That these companies may have existing bases they work with already that may feature our materials. You have contract manufacturers, which are they're also kind of behind the scenes, but they're developing formulas and doing all the work to get products to market. They may do that for smaller brands that don't have the resources, or they can do formulas for these larger companies. For our side, my particular lab, we are applying the science that we've developed from these raw materials that we've created to put them in application to show the best uses of these materials. So we'll support our sales team. They'll take a material, a formulation, feature our materials to their customers, and the hope is that our customers are really interested by this. They like the use of it, how it feels, and then maybe they take the full formulation and take it to market, or maybe they take a few key materials that we've offered and include that in their existing formulation. So we support them in that way and support their product development in that way. And we don't just sell the base materials, but we
Right.
also sell some materials that are actives that actually give the claim. So especially you
Yeah.
see in skincare where it's like
Yeah.
it reduces wrinkles, fine lines,
Yes.
etc. We create materials that also can do that in the skin and in other parts of the body.
That is so dope. First of all, can I ask? So I know you went to Seton Hall, so I know you're you're a very educated man.
Thank you.
What was your major?
I was actually a biology major, and I was on the track to go into physical therapy, and it
Yeah.
just wasn't working out for whatever reason.
Okay.
But I knew that I always liked working in the lab. That was something that I realized even before I got into college. So when I was trying to figure out the next steps in my career, I knew I wanted to be on the bench in some capacity, and things started just trending in the right direction. Things fell into place for me to end up actually working in the cosmetic industry. So it's one of those industries a lot of people don't know about unless you are really
Yeah.
passionate and you're actively pursuing it. But especially being in the tri-state area, all these companies typically have a headquarters in New York City, a marketing office, something of that capacity, and then they
Yeah.
also have R&D in the immediate area because marketing and R&D work closely together. So I
Yeah.
just luckily went to school here. I'm from here, and the jobs, were available once I discovered the industry.
So many people don't always get that opportunity, especially to fall into it, because I know you said that wasn't even really your first choice. But are you able to talk about how you kind of like slipped into that? Because I know you said you worked for Avon for a little bit. And
Yep.
for some people, like they could be, let's just say hypothetically, a college student, or maybe they are out of college. Maybe they could be watching this too. Like, what are some positives to allow someone to keep hope that, there's something out there for everyone, even when you're not really looking for it?
Yeah, well, I think compared to when I got in the industry, almost 15 years ago, there are a lot more
Yeah,
resources, social media,
absolutely. We didn't
and
have
a lot.
that.
Yeah, it changes the game in trying to pursue jobs, LinkedIn and things of that nature.
Yeah.
For any students nowadays that are really interested in getting in the industry, I would
Hmm.
check if there's a particular company we'll work for, if they have internships available or temp jobs, and
Yeah.
then We have what's called the Society of Cosmetic Chemists, or the SCC. That's the national organization for all cosmetic chemists. So there are chapters in basically every metro area where the industry is most popular. We have an NYSCC, which is the biggest chapter in the country because most of the jobs are
Wow.
here. But just the general SCC, you can go on their website. They have job boards available, whether it's internships or entry-level jobs. And it also has the different trade shows and meetings that you can attend as a student and can network with people that were in the industry to get your feet wet from that point. And from my particular experience, I was just looking for a job in Atrium Staffing, which I think is
Yeah.
based in New Jersey. You know, had resumes out there. I forgot, like the whatever Survey Monkey, whatever was out, you know, back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I had a resume there.
You're telling
They
your age
found,
a little bit.
I mean, it is the hair gives it away already, you know, so it is what it is. But they found me there. You know, I had some interest. I know I went to work on the bench. They matched me up to have an interview with Anthony Gonzalez, who Anthony's still at Avon at that point. He was a manager of global skincare at that point.
Okay.
And it was, I remember the interview like yesterday. I interviewed with Anthony. It was like a 2-minute interview. He was like, "Can you do this, that, and this?" I said, "Yeah." He got off the phone, was really short. I'm like, "I don't think I got this job." I got a call back. He said, "You know, come in on Monday." And the first day when we came in, it was myself and another intern, Suzanne, and they gave us a formula sheet to follow. It's like, here, make this. There wasn't really any guidance. Kind of had to figure it out. A bit of a scavenger hunt to get the materials that were needed and align everything and how they asked to do it. But we made the formulas properly, and they kept us there, and it kind of just went downhill from there.
Wow. And at that moment, was it a time in your head when you're saying, I think like I could see myself doing this forever, or were you already on the job for a while and, you know, you kind of fell in love with it then?
Maybe halfway. So I had a year-long temporary job from, you know, August 2006 to August 2007. So maybe halfway through, when I got comfortable with the role and you know, learned more just about the industry and everything that was involved in it, that's when I got serious and, you know, I think I want to pursue something like this. It was a good mix where it was still a bench job. It was still scientific, but there was a bit of an art to it as well. And it's fast-paced. You're not just sitting there, at least formulate. You're not just sitting there and watching things slowly and waiting for weeks and weeks for things to develop. You know, it's a matter of hours for you to do a batch and see some results in some way, shape, or form. So I like the speed of the work and just all the different parts behind the job. And, you know, so I started speaking to some of the older chemists that were there and asking them for information and literature, because for cosmetic industry now there's more stuff available online, but at that point in time it was hard to find things on the internet. You had to have actual textbooks and read. So people
go to the library.
Not even the library. It's hard, right? You know, so they would give me textbooks and I would just read it and educate myself. And I had some really good mentors I worked under that saw I was really interested. So they helped, you know, they helped with my curiosity and gave me difficult tasks to help, you know, give me experience to get me ready for when my temporary job was done and actually to go for a full-time job.
Wow. And so who is your biggest influence? Because I know we spoke about this, but, you know, we all have someone who pushes us to our full potential.
Mike Armstrong. So Mike was at that time, he was he moved, he was at Avon at the time. He was in innovation and then he moved into skincare as a manager there. So Mike was you know, still a young African-American man, was a little older than me, was more established in the industry. I think he was at Procter & Gamble before that. And he saw my interest. And also just in general, there aren't a lot of African-American men in that particular field. So we had that in common. We just got into a really good relationship. We built a good rapport. And then him being my manager, he was the one giving me direct batches to work on it. And he would give me things to challenge me versus just giving me simple tasks. But he would give me difficult projects. And when you're a temp, you really are tasked with just doing what your chemists ask you to do. That's that, and reporting the results. But Mike would, you know, challenge me, say, well, this happened. What do you do next? And he would actually give me projects that I would have to, you know, figure out how to problem solve and come up with plan B, C, D, and things of that nature. So he was giving me chemist work to help my experience, to help push me along. So that experience under Mike, also Sarah Smith who was a chemist there at Avon, who I worked a lot under, and another lady, Renata Kapanos, who she was Polish. She actually moved back to Poland. She was the chemist I worked under mostly when I first started. And she saw how curious I was, and she would take time out of her day to say, all right, these are the function of these materials. This is why this is happening. And, they fed the curiosity I had about the work I was doing.
Wow. First of all, can I say how dope that is? And everyone who just joined, this is Shawn Brown, because I know we actually really did start literally like at 6, what is that, 02 to be exact.
You told me to be there, so
listen, I'm a timekeeper, so I had to keep the time
all day.
Keep it on point. But yeah, Shawn is a lab application manager for Gattefossè, if I want to like put an extra French to it, USA, and they're basically a please help me out, because I am still learning about this just like everyone else.
So we're a raw material supplier.
Yes.
So we create the raw materials that will go to your favorite brands to use in their finished products.
Absolutely. And these products, guys, you probably see them in Sephora. You probably see them when they're doing the marketing, and you probably see them coming as paid social, and you're just wondering, could be shampoo, conditioner, who knows? And I wanted to also talk about that stuff too, is when you are making stuff, because you got everything kind of does start with you, or rather like you and your company, for whatever products that they will be sold to and or etc. So do you always know who your base products are going to further down the line? Because it's not the full process just yet when you finish your work.
Sometimes, so we have salespeople, and their role is that they call these companies. So we have salespeople that call on the larger companies directly. So, we know if it gets in a project, we know the end product. But you have some smaller companies, you have some marketing companies where they may be the ones that actually promote and sell the product, but we're working with the contract manufacturers that are actually doing the work to develop the formulation. There's times where we go to contract manufacturers, we visit them directly, and we promote our products. They take it within their pipeline, and we don't exactly know the final direction of the material. And sometimes you pitch something, it goes to a black hole, and the next thing you know, you have tons of product being bought, but you don't know the end. And then eventually it gets on the market. There are programs, websites like Chantel that we use that can tell you where your raw materials are going into. So we track all that down and try to put 2 and 2 together and figure out, well, this company was doing the work for this company, so this is where our final product ended up at.
How long does that normally take for you to formulate all of these raw materials and to formulate everything using, your lab chemical skills and chemistry skills as well?
It depends. You have some projects where it's very simple, and one batch will take a couple hours. Other products are projects that take months and weeks to make something that is, the right feel, the right fit. But whenever something is finished, at least on our particular perspective, we have to do stability studies as well. So we're checking it at different temperature conditions just to see if, the behavior of the formula, whether or not it changes or if it stays the same. And if it passes all of our criteria, usually like 6 months to a year, then we feel comfortable going forward and promoting that to our customers. But then our customers are going to do their own stability on their products as well. So it's a long process overall. And for every type of formulation, it's different testing, right? Like sunscreens, you have to do the testing to make sure that it protects you from UVA, UVB, and it's also a drug. So it's graded a little more harshly versus a cosmetic product. So depending on the type of application, it takes a little longer for something to actually go from conceptualization to actually being on the market.
Wow. And also, everyone, please send Shawn some hearts, because he is definitely the force behind of a lot of products that we are using, probably things that are in our bathroom that we probably don't even know. We probably
don't say the. I'm not the only one. I don't.
Well,
there's a
one.
lot of let's say the work. So
let's say one of the forces. But honestly, when something starts with you, like you're the starting piece, right? Now, I'm not excluding everyone else, but you definitely get the kudos for it, because at the end of the day, like I could have lipstick in my bathroom, and I'm pretty sure if I called you and said, and I'm reading all the ingredients, you probably would know if that was probably something that you worked on or not.
Yeah, definitely. We know where our things go. We keep it's called like a panorama. So every win that we get, that we identify, we keep it. I've worked at companies, you keep a trophy case. A lot of companies do that, especially
Yeah.
contract manufacturers, because you're trying to get business. So whenever we go visit customers, they usually have like a trophy case of the product that they produced. And
Yeah.
it's cool to see like, oh, they made that. And you're proud of it. The general public doesn't know. You know the
Yeah.
work that you put into the particular project.
What's a project that you didn't know about that you were most proud of and you really weren't expecting to see it? Maybe you don't have to actually say the actual name, because I know we can't say everything on a public platform, but or even the store that it was in, of that nature or something.
There's some stuff. So I'll talk about something publicly and something that I can't give all the details about.
Yeah, it's
I'm
fine.
laughing because I have family on here. They talk about spilling the tea, so they're gonna be getting on me about that. But
And if you guys have questions, I'm sorry, Shawn. If you guys have questions too, put them in the question box. It's next to the comment section. Because Shawn will try to spill as much tea as he possibly can. Okay, go ahead.
So the cool thing, if with any company, if you do well and they like your material, they
Yeah.
include you in your marketing, right? So
Yeah.
if anyone goes on Sephora, for example, and they Google Gasoline, which is the trade name for our active materials, that's GATULINE. We have a few different launches of our materials that are featured on there. Those are things that we've either worked with a direct customer. I think a few of the launches on there from Peter Thomas Roth. So we work directly with them, and then they like the material so much that they consider a hero material. So you put it in the marketing.
Yep.
They build a story around that material.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a few launches from them that feature some of our Gatchlin materials. I think First Aid Beauty is another company where one of our Gatchlins are featuring there as a hero material. At my previous job, I worked a little bit in marketing and sales before I came back into the lab. And at my previous job, we had worked with a large multinational company that I'm sure everyone has used their products. And we pitched to them for one of our sunflower seed oils. And we were kind of just leading it down the line. We didn't know the full impact of it. And next thing you know, you go to your Macy's counter and there's a whole pop-up for this product featuring our flower on there and the story behind our flower, in the marketing of their product. So we knew that we could take pictures, we could share that with our companies, our clients. And then with my current company, Gattefossè, we had a recent big win for a recent multicultural launch. And that was another thing where we went with a contract manufacturer. We knew they were working with the material, but they were not, they weren't privy to say, this is, our end customer. Next thing you know, it was a huge launch domestically. And, just curious, because as African-American male, I have interest in that. So just kind of reading through the literature, you see like, oh, wait a minute, that's our material. We go back and we find out, this was in that product. And, we get really excited about that. Every time you get a big win like that, because I grew up playing sports, that's like a championship for us. So when we see those things and we see we're featured in there, it's a really big deal. I could tell someone down the block, they're gonna look at me like I'm crazy, but for us, we know the work we did to get into these products.
It's also celebrating a win at the end of the day, right?
Yep,
So,
yep.
and that's, I can even relate some of the things that you're saying. Sorry. To even my job, right? So even though you're in beauty, it's the same thing when something starts off with, like, let's just say a project manager, or you're starting a show. You're starting a show or something like that. So I think that those things are very vital and very key. So that's why when you were mentioning the fact that, like, oh, it's not just me. You still got to take some credit at the end of the day, because your ideas are being contributed into something that's a major win down the line. Whether you know it that day or whether you know it further down, it doesn't matter. It's also, like you just said, it's like winning a sports championship. Like, we're everywhere, and we took part in this.
Yep.
And I also wanted to talk about how you mixing all of these ingredients, I'm going to call them ingredients, how they
That's the proper term, so that's okay.
Okay, good. how they made you a great chef as well, right? Because I know you talked about that too.
Now, great chef.
Oh,
My
that's so
brother's on here.
great.
My brother's a really good chef. I learned a lot. He's on here. I know he's gonna give me some heat after this, but yeah. It's so the thing that I was taught from the beginning of being in the industry is that if you can cook, you can formulate, and they're
Okay.
very similar. Where if you have your recipe and you add certain things in a certain order because you want the recipe to turn out a certain way. If you add things in the incorrect manner, then the recipe won't turn out the right way. And cosmetic formulations are the same way. We have different phases, as we call them. And I work a lot with emulsion, so like a lotion to the emulsion. So you have different phases, and you have to add the certain things. Usually you have things that like water in one phase together, things that like oil in one phase together, and then the active materials you mentioned, because they're usually really expensive and we want them to work, we add them later on in the formula. So you have to make sure that everything's made in the correct way, otherwise the formula won't come out properly. So I was, before I started like living on my own and actually cooking all the time, I was formulating. So once
Okay.
I moved out by myself and started doing it, it was like, okay, this makes sense. And it helped me be able to cook, because that's what I was doing 8 hours a day before I was going home.
Um, Sidebar question from beauty, but I guess, food is always a beauty to me. But what is something that you are a great, what's your favorite recipe to cook that is like one of the best for you, that you owe it to yourself or to cook this great dish because of what you're doing at work?
I mean, I'm still old school. I'm a meat and potatoes type of guy.
Okay.
I'm all about a good porterhouse on a grill, and either
Okay.
some baked or mashed potatoes with like some asparagus. It's super super simple, but I can make sure it's always medium. I'm not burning my steaks or anything like that. So
Okay. And if you were to have a cook off with your brother, who would win?
that's him easy. I don't want to lie to the public like that. He's how I treat the cosmetic industry and the work I do. That's how he is with his food. So
Okay,
I,
I
I
got you.
I have to be humble and admit that to him. Publicly, but he's got that. So he gave me a heart down there. So I got to be honest.
Okay, all right, I see. And if you have questions, comments, etc., please put them in the question box so I can shout you out, and also let Shawn know who it was by. And then also send him some cards and let him know how he's doing, because he's representing Gattefossè very well. So I wanted to know also, in addition, is this a woman or male dominated field? Because I feel like when you say beauty, I'm thinking of women, but that technically may not be true, because, I know men love math most times, and it's usually heavily dominated on the chemist field. So,
I think it's a good mix, to be honest with you. When I think about everywhere I
yeah.
worked,
Mm-hmm.
every lab has been pretty much even. I mean, I think there are more men in science, right? So that may lean
Yeah.
to have more men just in general, but it's typically not male dominated. There are definitely a lot of women. Even at my
Yeah.
current company, Gattefossè, our lab is small right now. It's only myself and then my chemist, Maria Rupert, and, one man, one woman. But
Yeah.
our headquarters in France, the lab is, all the chemists are women. And that's because one of the founders of the family, Blanche Gattefossè, is a woman, had a strong hand. So I don't know if it's intentional
Okay.
in that way, but I think there's a draw for women to want to work for our company for that particular reason. In our other labs globally, I think we have more women than men in the lab as well. So we have a
Wow.
pretty good
Okay.
mix.
Okay. Well, I think that's amazing. I think that it's not too much of either one, so that anyone else who may be interested in this certain type of field, or maybe you're mixing up something together, maybe someone needs to hit you up, they feel comfortable.
Yep.
uh what was the first thing that you made in the field that you were most proud of? One of your first formulas?
Uh, when I was at Avon, I worked on a microdermabrasion project there, and I think it
Yeah.
was for a new brand, which is the high-end brand, and it was 4 different shades of different hues of gray that I was working on, and they had a physical, like a metal microfluid to give the whole microdermabrasion process, and
Yeah.
that was a long process, a lot of batches to do, and in those larger companies, right, compared to where we work now, you have more departments. So there's also a pilot group when they test larger volumes of the product. And I remember one time
Yeah.
for that, the pilot lab wasn't working. So then I had to take like, I'm going to say like 8,000, yeah, what's it like 8,000 grams worth of products making batches in the lab. So these are like way larger volumes than you would typically make on the bench to support the project.
Yeah.
But we did all this, and after I left, found the industry, you see where things go. And I know that was a really big launch for Avon. I know they did well. I think they won some awards for that, within a lot of the beauty publications. So although I was a small piece of that, and this is years ago, it was cool to see your work, be rewarded in some capacity. And it's like in this industry, they never put the chemist name user that develops it, but even the work that you've done, especially in those companies, you're probably handsomely rewarded for wins as well. So your bank account looks a little better too when you get stuff to market also.
Okay. Speaking of which, I'm sure you get an amazing discount. I'm sure. How is Christmas and how is Valentine's Day and Mother's Day? Because I know that you are married and you have 2 sons as well. How is that? Because I'm sure, is that like, nice for the wifey?
It's fun. My wife actually isn't really big into makeup. It's actually when we met years ago, she wasn't. She's dabbling more into it, but it's not really her thing. But the cool thing working with a lot of these larger companies, especially, is that they have company stores on site. So if you've developed good relationships with certain chemists there, when you go to visit, there's you want this? You're coming to the company store, and usually it's heavily discounted from what you would see in the general market. So you go there, you stock up on certain things. You got a brand you like. The hope is that you have a good relationship with the people at that brand, so you can get what you need when you go to visit them. And there are certain companies that do like Christmas bags that are discounted, and they'll send it to their preferred partners, the companies that we work closely with, and they'll say, hey, we have this like 20-pound bag for $50. So you put it in. You don't. It's like a mosh podge of things in there, so you don't know exactly what you're going to get, but it's cool either way to get those things.
I'm sure mom and if you have any sisters or nieces, or if there's men products in there, I'm sure everyone has to be excited at some point. Because
I've been slipping in recent years, and now they're gonna know because I haven't mentioned. I've been getting the bags like I need to, but I think I probably have to start doing it again after this. So it's all right. It is what it is. I probably owe some people some gifts. So
hey, at the end of the day, I knew if I worked somewhere and I had a lot of beauty products, that's what everyone would be getting, or a part of what people would be getting for Christmas and holidays. Who doesn't love a little quick gift?
Yeah, of course.
Especially how much things are nowadays too. We don't always want to have to pay for the whole full price.
I don't know. The bags may be full of hand sanitizer with the way things are nowadays, though. So
we'll take it, because look how hard it was to get hand sanitizer when the pandemic first started, and it was skyrocketed high. A $2, $3 hand sanitizer was like $30 to $50. Why?
Well, actually, it's funny because a lot of when the pandemic was at its peak, a lot of our customers transitioned to doing hand sanitizer. So it was a adjustment for everyone. We don't sell as many materials for that. We do have some, but for other companies that don't, it was probably more difficult for them. But everyone was making hand sanitizer, so the whole focus of the industry shifted. Now it's kind of coming back to normalcy now.
Okay, that's pretty cool. When you're making ethnic products, are there any specific or certain considerations that you guys take when making these certain type of products for different ethnic groups?
Yeah, because the reality is that, every nationality has a different skin type and a different hair type, right? So you may be able to make a product that can support multiple ethnicities, right? But if it's very targeted and it's for black and brown skin, black and brown hair, you have to use materials that give the right efficacy for those certain things. So definitely you can't just make anything and assume it'll work for everyone. It doesn't always work that way.
Okay. I have a 2-part question. So the first one, shout out to Taryn. He says, "Where's the products for the Bald Brothers?" Are
Well,
there
so
products for the Bald Brothers?
yeah, so actually, what I've been because mine's freshly shaved. Chad, I know he's getting on me. But what I've been using recently, Shea Moisture has a bald head moisturizer that I think
Okay.
launched in like the past couple of months that I've been using. It's like a tea tree oil, and it also has moisturization. It smooths pretty well, and I like the way it feels. It gives a little bit of a cooling sensation, especially after you just cut your hair. But
Okay.
then it soothes as well and gives like a nice gloss to the baldy that I know Taryn likes. So.
Okay. All right. Shout outs to Taryn too. What's up, A5A? What's up, Iro? Um, do you test your own products in the lab as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a requirement in the
Yeah.
industry. Like even when you interview, I know people that if they toss you a bottle of lotion and you just kind of
Yeah.
put it to the side and don't try it on, they automatically write you off. It's we
Oh, is
I
that
mean,
considered like shade?
not shade, but you shouldn't be afraid to get your hands dirty because you're always
Okay.
formulating, you're always touching things, and then you need to know what your products feel like because that's a way to help you adjust your batch, right?
Yeah.
It couldn't look good in terms of the consistency, but if it doesn't have the right feel, the right texture, the right film,
Yeah.
then you have to feel that and say, all right, this isn't giving me the feel that I want in the product. All right, these are the adjustments I need to make it in my future batch. So you got to try everything no matter what.
Mhm.
I've never worked fully in color, but I know people that have, and a lot of men in color, and it's not odd to see men walking around in lipstick. The biggest, most muscular football players that work in the lab walk around in their lipstick because they need to know how it feels so that they can
Yeah.
communicate that properly to the people they work with.
I think that's the when it comes to like lipstick and different products for the females. And I know you said that you guys have half and half. It's a very, it's a good mixture of men and women, right? So
Yep.
do they usually test both a man and a woman for women's products when it comes to consistency and how it feels, et cetera? Because I know a man could do that just to obviously give his opinion, but what about the women too?
Yeah, I mean, because we know if there's a target feel we're going for,
Yeah,
and we know how it's communicated. If we say, hey, this is the feel I want, I want it to be rich, et cetera, et cetera. Or if I made multiple
yeah,
products and I had someone try all of them and ask them to describe, you should be able to say, all right, this feels too thick, this is too greasy, this is too watery, and if that's what's
okay.
on the brief as a target, then that can be communicated, no matter whether it's a man or a woman.
Got you. Yeah. So it would be safe to say, listen, you got to be willing to have an open mind and obviously a, a openness to be able to try things on because obviously you need to try on your own products.
Of course, you
Even
have
if
to.
you're a man, no one's judging you.
Yeah.
Somebody might be a macho man. You never know. Um, and I feel like somebody might be able to be like that. But shout outs to you. Um, would you ever start your own cosmetic line? Because you
Oh,
already know how to formulate your own stuff. So
so
why not?
I thought about it. I also feel, I have other hobbies I have outside of work. I put a lot into the average work day. And
Yeah,
then, to come home and immerse yourself in it again, and especially having kids now and a wife, it's time consuming. And not saying it's impossible. I know people that do it that they formulate, all day and then they come home and they do it all night and have their brand, and I commend those people. I'll never say never, but right
yeah,
now it's not something that I think I'll do, but I do like when I know people that do it, that, recreation and trying to get to that point. If I see
yeah,
that, then I try to, reach out and just ask them if they need some help or advice for something. Not trying to, get anything financially, but if I know you and
yeah,
I see what you're trying to do and I have something, from my experience that I can contribute, I'm gonna say, hey, try this, that, and the
yeah.
third, and allow them to pick my brain if they have any questions and just let them know that I'm available to them as a resource for these things.
Got you. What do you say to the people or those folks out there who are their own entrepreneurs, who are, making their own batches in their own kitchens and et cetera? Do they need to go to a bigger manufacturer, um, where, like such as a Gattefossè or anyone else? Is that absolutely necessary?
No, I mean, I think you never know. At some point, if you're selling and you're doing well, you may outgrow, your current facilities, your current situation, and you may need to have more expert experience. But there are a lot of brands
Yeah.
out there that stayed in the kitchen and stayed, independent till they got big bucks and sold to multinational brands. I mean, there's a lot of resources on the internet now where you can educate
Yeah.
yourself on these things and learn about
Yeah.
materials, learn about the regulatory, and even you can do your development in-house. There are a lot of third-party companies that will do the testing, micro
Hmm.
testing, make sure there's no bacterial growth, regulatory. So you can keep a lot of stuff in-house and work with third-party companies. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be going with a large company. We're here as a resource, Gattefossè, if you
Exactly.
want to work with us. But we don't always take everyone in. We work to do technical support for our customers, for
Okay.
those that are staying in house, and if they have questions on our materials, they reach out and we help troubleshoot and problem solve for them as well. So it's every entrepreneur's prerogative. If you're more
Yeah.
comfortable keeping it in house and having your hands on everything, then that's fine.
Yeah.
There's been success in both ways.
Okay. There's a lot of, talk, or sometimes there are rumors or whatever you may say, that when people do switch over to a bigger manufacturer because they are outgrowing their business, though, that the integrity of the products that they are making on their own goes down. Would you say that that's true or false?
I don't. I would say that's false. Just because I know from
Yeah.
seeing with other companies, uh, they usually may have more resources and they may pick through things. Like, granted, will the formula maybe feel a little differently than it was made previously? I could see that being a possibility. I'll
Right.
give you just an example. If small company, mom and pop shop is making a product and they get bought by a larger company, then
Hmm.
the larger company has a certain material, the same material mom and pop was using, but they like this material because it's better quality. They may use
Right.
that. If the company mom and pop was using was just, you know, selling, out of, some dirty warehouse, et cetera, wasn't ordered
Yeah.
properly, because these are things that come back to haunt them, if there's some issues from a regulatory perspective. And you see lawsuits that happen because of the quality of products when large companies launch them. Smaller companies can get away with that because they're not under the public eye. They're not under the government's eye as much, right? So the
Yeah.
larger companies are going to be
Absolutely.
very particular about what they use. So, I
Yeah.
think from a safety perspective, and things of that nature, I think it's, I don't think it's true necessarily that things are worse when you go to, a larger
Yeah.
corporation.
Okay. Just asking because I know I've heard some people say that about certain products. Just certain, like it could be a shampoo or something. And now that it's going a little more global, or now that you see things that are more in retail, they're like a little nervous because they're like, "Am I going to get the same exact thing that I was getting prior before?" Because I knew what was, I don't know, maybe the owner was showing behind the scenes footage of like mixing their batch, so maybe it made certain people more comfortable, which leads into my next question about marketing. How close are you with marketing too? Because I'm sure you guys must work hand in hand.
Yeah, I saw, just to tell you how close we are at our company. So my office is kind of off the lab, and then I'm surrounded by our three marketing team members. So even if I wanted to hide, I can't, and they can't hide from me either. But it's
Okay.
one of the things where that's the relationship, and you get an understanding of the influence that your marketing team has.
Mhm.
Marketing really drives the ship in pretty much every company because they understand what the trends are, they understand what's popular, what's not as popular, and they get a feel for the climate in the industry, and then they're the ones that say, all right, we should develop this type of formulation for these particular reasons, and it's up to us as the chemists to try
Yeah.
to do that and try to meet marketing. Hopefully, we're meeting them 100% in what their needs are. Sometimes we have to
Okay.
meet them in the middle and say, hey, we can do this. Marketing says, why can't you do it? So it's a little bit of a back and forth at
Okay.
times. Not as much on the supplier side versus your finished products, but marketing
Yeah.
really runs things. They have a huge influence, and you have to work closely with them to be able to make a successful product.
What's the biggest thing that you love about your job the most? Because I think there's like multiple things, right? But what's the biggest one?
Um, I like the troubleshooting. And I like when customers come to us with a problem with their formula, and sometimes the time to resolve the issue is very
Yeah.
short, but they say, hey, we've made this formula. We think your material is causing the problem. How can we resolve this issue?
Okay.
So it's us to kind of look at the formula, give our suggestions, sometimes take the project in-house and work on it hands-on with the
Yeah.
customer, and then, fix the problem. So I like the problem solving, and
Okay.
then being on our side, we're selling to our customers. So I do like getting out with the sales team, getting some face-to-face time with the customers, talking about their projects directly, and helping to give them a solution within our portfolio that they can use for our product. So I like just the customer interaction quite a bit, because when you're on the consumer side, your contact is a lot more internal with the respective teams, and you're interacting with people selling you products and things of that nature. But there's not as much travel involved. So sometimes I get to go out to California for a week, and also see customers
Cool.
and pitch to them. Sometimes I get to go, whether it's Canada, Europe. A lot of it in Europe is more so internal meetings, but you may see some customers depending on what it is.
A lot of
But
FaceTime too in front of
yeah,
folks. Yeah.
yeah, and it's I get up for that. I'm like what do they say? It's like I'm an extroverted introvert, right? But when
Yeah.
I get into the work mode, I can flip a switch and just sell the vision of what we're trying to do with our products.
Okay. What's next for you? Because you just talked about a lot of things. I see that you have a management title, right? I'm
Yep,
hoping, right?
yep, yep.
So, what's the formula of you getting to the next level for Shawn Brown?
I don't know. I remember when I had my interview with this company, I told everyone, I was like, hey, I think I want to see myself as a CEO in some capacity, or at least
Okay.
get myself to that level. I was very transparent with that. But this has been a really good experience, and to go behind the camera and behind the curtain. My current senior director, Ben Blinder, I worked with him in one of my previous companies. It's such a small industry. That's one thing. Say to anyone
Very.
interested in cosmetics, it's a very small industry.
Yes.
One wrong move, you're done, or you can be done. But you make the right moves, and keep in contact with the right people, and it can continue to help you in your career. So Ben, I worked under, he wasn't my direct report, but I worked him in a previous company. So we kept in contact, and I always see him at trade shows, and I liked to work with Ben. I had a good rapport with him. So I would see him at trade shows and always say hi or whatever. And then when this opportunity came up with Gattefossè, I reached out and, connected with him about the opportunity, and, and I liked him. It's always good to have a good relationship with your boss. I liked him.
Yeah.
The company, it worked out. I had worked with a lot of people in the company already at previous jobs, had good relations with them. So everything kind of fit with the position. And my lab I work in is a brand new lab. I actually kind of helped build a lab, helped put the equipment in. So it's like literally my lab. So there's an
Oh,
attachment
wow.
with the lab versus you go to companies and things are in place. So I had a lot of input in the equipment that's in there, the protocols, all that. So there's an attachment. So I'm
Okay.
hoping that we continue to do well. I can continue to grow into the company. And we'll see what happens. I'm taking it a day
Okay.
at a time, and we're gonna go from there.
This is my last question, unless anyone else, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask it while we are still on the live to Shawn directly. What are 3 vital and key things that someone needs to excel in this level of this industry?
3, I think, networking is key, or just being personable. And like I said, the industry's small.
Yeah.
People are watching you even when you don't think they're watching you.
So true.
So I think you want to put your best foot forward when you're out in situations, when you're out on calls. You never know. You can go see one of your customers, and then another company's looking for someone, and they'll ask their customers who's good that you worked with. And they'll say, oh, that person from that company is really good. Or when you go on calls to these larger companies, they have these waiting rooms. So you have salespeople from a bunch of different companies in there, and you never know who may be your next boss, who may be your next colleague at this company. So I think it's good to keep good relationships with people. So if you get along with people easily, I think that helps out quite a bit in the industry. Course wise, I would say organic chemistry was the most relevant course for me. So, if you're in the sciences, if you had to take biology, chemistry, I think chemistry, you probably take organic chemistry in some capacity. So being good in that is helpful just for the type of materials we work with. And also, I went back and took it again just to really strengthen myself. And once I realized how much organic chemistry was relevant to what we do. And then,
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, and lastly, being open, to criticism and things of that nature, because you're gonna make batches, and everything you make isn't gonna be great. People could pick apart a batch and give you suggestions. You gotta be open to criticism and being able to work with that, because you're not gonna be perfect in everything you do. So
yeah. Gotta have that teamwork. First of all, I don't think I'll be able to be a lab technician or I can't do the lab application thing. I definitely did great in my lab, and I don't know what happened to the bio class. So I said I'm taking communication, period. Shouts to Taryn. He has a really good question, and I think if you do work in a corporate setting, I think we all do deal with this in some capacity. And it's, have you ever had to deal with a Karen in your industry? And then how did you manage it? Because yes, that happens.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because of how I grew up. I grew up in a real diverse town. Shout out to New Jersey. So there was every and anyone in the town, all nationalities. So for me, I think I was used to dealing with everything.
Yeah.
I think it could be difficult for people of our nationality when you grow up in, whether it's predominantly white area, right? Predominantly black area, predominantly Hispanic area, and you really only know what you see on the news, limited interaction, stereotypes, and things of that nature, right? But I was so used to seeing everything and dealing with everything that I was able to just kind of roll with the punches. And if there was like a slick comment, I may have heard it, and
goes out one ear and rolls out the other. Yeah.
I did have to address something one time with a colleague at a former company. I was working on a project, and the project, we were going over the marketing literature for the material, and we had to pick a new model for it. And the model I chose, it was African American model, and my colleague said, "Well, why does it have to be the black woman? Like, it's like we only use that for ethnic or whatever." And I remember kind of stepping back and talking to my boss about it. I'm like, what's the deal with that? Like, why can't it be an African American model for this particular thing? And addressed it with the colleague, my concerns, how I felt about it, and we went forward with the African American model for that. So you definitely deal with it. I try to put myself in a position where I can, if someone approaches me with things, that I can address those things with them. But also, I think I got a thick skin, and I can let some stuff roll off if it comes about. And I just got to do my job, because I have a greater purpose than just getting in controversies in the office, And
your greater purpose could also be to bring the change into the workplace, because like you just said, you were able to push for that black literature that you were pushing for. And I think, you are in a big, let's just say in corporate America, where we are the percentage that makes up that black, that black area, or ethnic realm, I should say. I'm going to be very political on a public platform. You're there for a reason at the end of the day. So I advise, and if you are in that type of situation, like, you have a voice, you just use it. I think sometimes it's just how we articulate sometimes to get our point across. Sometimes you really just have to know how to speak multiple languages in different ways. And when I say that, I don't mean like literally, I mean being able to communicate very effectively and not feel like, you give power to someone else. Just use your voice and use it effectively.
Yeah, I feel now, being in the industry as long as I have been, I feel more comfortable, in my role. And, when I was younger, you kind of sat back and just kind of observe things. But now as I pick up on things, I try to address them where I can with people before it, if it goes downhill. So.
Absolutely. I think that was a great question that Taryn asked. I think, people do always wonder about certain things that we do see in the media, but, you have a voice, use it. Make sure, I think, like you said, I just want to piggyback off of that. Those connections that you do make, that networking, those networking skills, you never know who's your ally and who can take your voice a little bit further, or who admires you, for sure. Shawn, this has been absolutely a pleasure to have you on here. You spilled as much tea as you possibly could.
I'm gonna hear from my people talking about spilling tea. I was gonna have if this was Zoom, I would have had Kermit in the background as my virtual background, but I couldn't do it. So
It's okay. You're fine. You're fine. Any last words? Shout outs to Estrella too. She is so dope. She's also a Black woman that's doing her thing. She's also a chemist as well. She's great.
shout out Straya. I see you over there.
Yeah, she does have, I know I'm plugging her in, but she does have her own company called Ian Company. And I think it's awesome when I know a Black woman, a Black man that are doing great things, and you're putting up great products for all ethnicities, because we need more of us in the mix of things. We all want a seat at the table, but you know what? I'm glad that there's someone there for us in this particular industry. And I just want to thank you guys for that, because I love cosmetics. So yeah.
It's been, I didn't think I would love it as much as I do.
Yeah.
But it's been good to me. It's like when you find your niche, because I'll be honest, when I graduated, I didn't know what direction I was going to go into, and to find something that could satisfy my appetite for certain things, and be able to take me to places that I've been. It's been real good to me. So I've been very happy with it, and I try to sing the praises about it, when I can, or I've mentored a few people that are trying to get in the industry, and just give them the knowledge that I have, and try to push them in the right direction where I can. So
yes. Well, Shawn, again, I want to thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This means a lot to me.
Of course.
Shout outs to Iro.
Yes, all day.
TK loves Iro, and
I wasn't gonna wear para. I didn't want to go too crazy though, but yeah, I had the hat ready.
That.
So okay.
Yeah, now we good. This is Shawn Brown. I'm Chantel. Please follow Chantel's Beauty Talk as well, because I will be launching that page in the fall. I would love to have Shawn, if you want to come back in the fall. I will have a fall season as well, but it will be on my new platform that's already created. Please give it a follow. And always remember, guys, that beauty is on the inside, it's on the outside, and loving yourself. And until the next time, I will see you guys next Sunday. And thanks again, Shawn.
Thank you for having me. I'll see you in the fall.
See you in the fall. Good night, everyone.
Good night.